Okay, hello. So I'm Holly. Yeah. So I'm also 29. It's obviously the magic number. And I live in a Buddhist community with Suyen, Sabadramati and Shradasiddhi, and like millions of other women as well. It's a really big community. There's 12 of us. Feels like millions sometimes. And yeah, 3 years ago I came on this retreat. So I came on the second half of this retreat. And yeah, my life was very different then. So I'll tell you about it. So here we go. So I'll start off at the beginning. So I grew up on the Isle of Wight, and I had a very extracurricular childhood. I did everything that I possibly could: music, ice skating, singing, dancing, drama. I was in all the sports teams at schools, the choir, everything. And I think if my family was tending to one side, one ravine, it would be the nihilistic. So it was quite a hedonistic, very kind of joyful, happy childhood where we just got the most out of life and we had lots of fun together and we did as much as we could. And I can remember my granddad saying to me, his advice was, Holly, if I could do it all again, I'd do more. And I was like, okay, right. Yeah. So one of the activities that we used to do as a family was we used to do a lot of sailing, living on the Isle of Wight. And I can remember there's like a one-man little dinghy that I used to sail in. I think I was about 9 years old. And I was sailing with a group of people and we were sailing over to Portsmouth, so from the island to the mainland. It's very exciting. And the group of boats was ahead of me. I was a bit behind. And as we got out into the Solent, and that's a bit of water between Portsmouth and the Isle of Wight, the wind dropped and like the boat kind of, stopped. When the wind's not going, the boat doesn't really go. So I started to feel a bit anxious, thinking, oh gosh, I was only 9 and I was in this boat thinking, why has my dad left me in this boat? And he used to drive the safety boat and he was really strict on not favouring his children, so there were lots of other children. So I knew that if I got into trouble that would be a long wait till he came to rescue me. And you can do this thing where you like wiggle the rudder, the tiller, which moves the rudder, and kind of move the boom around to try and move the sail and get the boat going. So I was kind of frantically doing this, thinking, oh gosh, like what's going to happen to me? I'm going to drift, to America or something. And then I just realised, like, oh, I can't, like, there's no wind, and I'm not going to, and I can't do anything about that. So I just stopped and I just lay back in the boat and I just saw it was so still, the water, and blue, and it was a sunny day. And I just felt really relaxed and thought, oh, well, this is kind of nice, and I was really struck by the beauty and the stillness, actually. And it was obviously just very different to the rest of my life because it was so busy, and it was great fun, but actually this was like a deeper type of joy, actually, a stillness. And I guess in my childhood there wasn't much time for reflection or deeper thinking, and this was a moment to really take in the moment, I suppose. And another point in my childhood which really stood out, a bit later on, I was about 14 and a big whale got washed up on the beach. Just down the road, about 5 minutes from my house, and my dad drove me down to take a look at this whale. And I remember stepping out of the car and walking up and just being absolutely struck by this massive animal. It was taller than me and just so long, and it was just kind of gross actually, but also absolutely beautiful. And it was dead, but it was like I'd never seen anything so alive. And I was imagining I just couldn't get my head around how it had been swimming around under the ocean. I didn't know where it had been, and I was imagining this other world, like that I didn't know anything about this ocean, and it had washed up into my world. And it was just, I think it was just like a touch of the sublime, just completely awestruck, and slightly terrified. And I can remember it was there for about a week, and I wanted to go back and see it every day, but my dad wouldn't drive me back down. And I could have easily walked down, but I don't think I had it seemed a bit odd or a bit strange. No one else in the family wanted to keep going and being with this dead whale. And I really wanted to go back, and I wasn't really able to articulate what about it had moved me so much. And I just didn't, my parents didn't really seem up for talking about that. And I really had a sense of like my place in the world, I think, through meeting this whale. And but I didn't, there wasn't really, I never really spoke to my parents about that. Yeah. And then the next kind of thread in my life, about 2 years later, when I was about 16, I met a woman, an artist, and she just opened up the world of visual arts for me. I started going to her for these kind of art classes on a Sunday. And yeah, we just used to, with a small group of other children, well, young adults, we just paint and draw together, and we talk about life and art. And she kind of changed the trajectory, actually, of my education. I didn't really think I was very good at art, but I thought it was fun. But she saw something in me that I didn't see, and she thought she kind of cultivated, I suppose, my imagination and my creativity. And I just threw myself into art and decided like this is what I was going to do. And yeah, and I think it was a way for me to really explore my imagination and my inner life. And yeah, so I went to art school, and I went to a university, and I studied fine art and history of art. And I was really interested in optical illusions and things like camera. I used to make like camera obscuras around the university, and yeah, these dioramas where you make like a box and there's like a little world inside another world, and you view it through a little hole. I was just so interested in this mysterious kind of the vision, and how we kind of create our own vision, that the world wasn't so set, that we kind of created it with our minds, I suppose. And so I used to explore these concepts in my artwork, and around the same time I fell in love with another student at university, and his parents were Buddhists, and that was like my first contact with Buddhism. So we go and stay at his family home, and they'd built their house just down the road from their Buddhist centre, Tibetan Buddhists. And they were really interested in my artwork as well, and they'd like read my dissertation and give it around to their friends, and I'd have these kind of conversations about vision and reality and with his parents and his friends. And I was really struck going to his house because his parents seemed so worldly. I remember they used to read the National Geographic, and they were interested in culture and history and psychology and art, and it was something that I hadn't been able to access or talk to my parents about. And yeah, it just seems something different in that. Yeah. So I think I connected to like value, depth and meaning through these experiences of nature and through art. Yet I kind of really easily forgot these threads. I didn't really cherish them. I didn't really understand the value of them. Yeah, I didn't really know the impact that they'd had. I forgot them, and I got distracted with well, like partying and socialising and kind of like the surface layer of life. Yeah, so I finished university, and I'd kind of decided that it was time to kind of get real. And I think I felt like I'd kind of wasted my time studying art. Like, what was I, in the real world, what was I going to do? There didn't seem like a path laid out as an artist. Even though I'd connected with a lot of value and depth and meaning through art, I don't think I had enough belief or confidence in myself to kind of pursue that. And it was really scary and really uncertain, that kind of path, I suppose. And also there wasn't a community of people that I could share that life with. It was quite lonely and quite isolated. So I kind of started this kind of quest, I think, for like happiness and perfection through, I guess, like looking for a job, I suppose. So art, I just kind of decided art wasn't perfect, or I wasn't perfect for art, because it brought quite a lot of pain and quite a lot of self-doubt. So I thought, oh, okay, that's bad. I must not. Maybe I'm just not an artist, so I'll try something else. So I think I was just always looking for more, and always looking for this perfection. So like my boyfriend at the time, the relationship wasn't perfect. So I thought, oh, I'll just change the relationship. That's what's wrong. Just break up with the boyfriend. And I tried so many jobs. I did marketing, I tried teaching, I tried different countries, just loads of stuff. And when it wasn't right, or I didn't feel like I was right, I just changed it. I wasn't really afraid of changing things all the time. And I think basically nothing would live up to my expectations. Like, I couldn't live up to my expectations. I wasn't good enough. I wanted my actions to be kind and beautiful and graceful all the time, and sometimes they were really ugly, and I'd just be really disappointed in myself. And also the people around me just were never really good enough. The job wasn't good enough. All these people weren't good enough. And I just had this sense that I was just always trying to pull myself together, and yet my life just seemed like a mess, and I couldn't get it together. And I was just so confused, just thinking, what is wrong with me, you know? And I thought, oh, I got the perfect job, or what I thought was the perfect job, working in a hospital as an artist, doing an art therapy job. And I just never felt so alone and so isolated, and I just couldn't cope. Like, I couldn't talk about how I felt, and there was nothing left to change. So I changed everything. I'd got the dream job, and yeah, there was nothing left to change. So I felt trapped, basically, and yeah, I felt really trapped. And I'd also developed an eating disorder as well at the time, I think, just through all the anxiety. And I think it's related to just wanting myself to be perfect, and just kind of immersing myself in some other anxiety that wasn't looking at the deeper issues. So, yes, I had this dream job and this dream life, and I hated it. And so I just went on holiday. I thought, I'll just go away, it'll be okay. So I went to Morocco on a surfing holiday with some friends. And I had the book, the Tibetan book of the living, with me. And it got to the end of the holiday, and I can remember I just desperately didn't want to go back to my perfect life. And I can remember saying to my friends, like, look, let's just all stay in Morocco. We'll buy a hostel, and we'll just live here. It'll be great. And they would just look at me like, what? Holly, no, you can't do that. I was really convinced, like, desperately didn't want to go back. So the last day of the holiday, I was really hungover, and I had this book. I was trying to teach myself to meditate, looking at Padmasambhava's face, like, please let something happen. Like, I don't want to go back to London. Let me escape somehow. And my friend came up, and I closed the book, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Nothing. And and I just decided in that moment, I was like, okay, I need to find out about Buddhism. So I went back. I had to go back. I had to leave Morocco, sadly. Went back to London, and I just Googled Buddhism and found out about the Buddhist Centre. So I went along, and I just wanted to learn about Buddhism, about the philosophy. And yet everyone was trying to get me to meditate, and I was like, oh, I don't want to meditate. That sounds rubbish. It sounded really boring and really difficult. And I was like, but I couldn't, I don't know, basically, I felt like they were forcing me to meditate if I wanted to find out, basically, about what the Buddha taught. No one actually forced me, but it seemed like I couldn't, they weren't really encouraging me to go to Dharma night, so I was like, okay. So I didn't go to Dharma night. I went to the Tuesday drop-in with all the beginners. And yeah, and so I sat in the Metta Bhavana, and it was the most horrible experience ever. It felt like a miniature version of myself was trying, mini Holly was trying to escape big Holly, and I just wanted to run out of the room. And I also was just really faced with this feeling of myself not being good enough at all. And then when I brought my dear friend into the meditation, she wasn't good enough either. She didn't quite deserve my metta. She hadn't done this thing for me, or something. And afterwards I was like, oh my gosh. But so I was thinking, why did I go back? But I did go back, and I wanted to go to the LBC. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to be at the LBC every night, but I couldn't quite. I think what stopped me was that I lived with two other girls, and they would have thought I was really strange if I'd been at the Buddhist Centre all the time. But I became this like secret meditator, so I'd start meditating in my room, and one of my flatmates would knock on the door, and I'd like pull my laptop out and be like, yes? So weird. Do you know what? At least I was meditating. Yeah, so I was like, I think because it was so different, it was really radical, but I couldn't really see that it was such a radical thing to do. No one I knew was doing it, and I was just really, I really cared what other people thought. It really had an effect on me. Luckily, not enough to stop me coming to the Buddhist Centre. So, yeah, I think what I was struck by actually was the kindness and the acceptance that I felt from the people at the Buddhist Centre, and I felt like I could just be myself. I think all my life I'd been putting on like the happy Holly show, and like I felt like I'd had a really good life, I should be really happy, and I was just so confused. Like whenever I had a difficult emotion, I was like terrified, like, oh no, ill will or hatred or anger or pain. And it felt like it had no place in my life. Like, why would it show its face when I'd had such a great life and I was young and healthy and I had a great job and loads of friends? Like, why should I ever feel unhappy? It's crazy, isn't it? But it still happens now. Yeah, so I came on this retreat, and I kind of reconnected actually to my imagination through meditation. I finally started to enjoy meditation, and I connected to nature and this stillness and this beauty. And I think I started to see the beauty not in perfection, but just beauty just in everything. Actually, it didn't really matter if it was perfect or not. So yeah, I feel like coming on this retreat, I reconnected to value and meaning and depth, and I think all my life I've been looking for something to kind of give my life to. Like, I have a lot of energy, and I really wanted to do something good in the world. I wanted to give my life to something, but nothing was really worthy of that. But I feel like this is something that I can just wholeheartedly give my life to Buddhism, particularly in this movement. And I feel confident that it will have a positive effect on the world. And it's not something I'm doing alone, but I'm doing it with others, with friends. And yeah, and I just have this really strong feeling that as I grow older, I really want to become more loving, more kind, and more able to sit with life. And that's why I'm a Buddhist.